When the officer pulled her over, he thought it was just another routine stop. What he didn't know was that the woman behind the wheel was a Navy commander ready to shake the system. What happened next left the entire city speechless. If that day had been a person, it would have been sitting shirtless on a sagging porch in a sweat-stained undershirt, drinking warm beer and talking about how the world had gone to hell with a half smile and no intention of changing a damn thing. That's exactly how Los Angeles felt that afternoon. Heavy, sticky, familiar in the worst way. Like something was about to go wrong, but not loud wrong. Just the slow kind that sneaks up on you. Officer Michael Turner sat in his patrol-issued Ford Explorer, half dozing, chewing the edge of a stale protein bar, and watching the heat rise off the concrete like steam off bad soup. He wasn't in a bad mood. He never thought he was. He was just being himself, a white man who'd worn a badge long enough to believe he could read people from the outside in. Like skin color told the whole story. Like confidence was a threat if it came from the wrong zip code. That's when he saw her. Black Toyota Camry, tinted windows, smooth lane change. She rolled up to the Wilshire intersection, stopped just a few inches past the white line, barely a toe over, nothing worth a second glance. But Turner flipped on the lights like he'd just caught a bank robber. "Let's make this interesting," he muttered, tugging down his sunglasses. The Camry pulled over. No drama, no sudden moves. Just calm, the kind of calm that makes folks nervous when they don't expect it. Turner stepped out, all business, adjusted his belt, straightened his vest. Wore that face, you know the one, the "I'm here to protect and serve but don't get cute" expression. He leaned into the window. "Good afternoon, ma'am. License and registration, please." The window rolled down smooth. And there she was. Black woman, late 40s, maybe early 50s. Poised, hair pulled back neat, sunglasses half hiding eyes that didn't flinch. She didn't ask why, didn't fumble or explain, just handed him her documents with a calm that rattled. "Of course, officer," she said. He glanced at the license. Joyce Reeves. All standard, until his eyes caught the bottom line. U.S. Navy Commander, retired. That's when the play began. Turner raised an eyebrow. "Commander, huh? Real deal or one of those online psychology course types?" His voice came easy, with that oily chuckle some folks mistake for charm. She looked him dead in the eye. Not defiant, just exhausted in a way only life could teach. "It's real, officer. 13 years in the Navy, 6 overseas deployments, a combat medal if you're curious." Turner let out a sound that was half grunt, half disbelief. He held the license a little too long, like he was trying to see if it would vanish if he stared hard enough. "I pulled you over for crossing the line," he said, trying to reclaim the tone. "Technically a moving violation." "I notice," she replied. "Small mistake. Thanks for pointing it out." "Usually folks get a little more emotional," he said, tapping the roof of the car. "Raise their voice, get defensive." "I'm not folks, officer." That's when it should have clicked. But Turner still thought he was in charge. He gave a shrug. "You'd be surprised." "I doubt it." The words hung in the air like smoke, the kind that tells you the fire's not out, just waiting. Then a second patrol car rolled up. Out jumped a young officer, maybe 24, eager, clean cut. He took one look at Joyce and stiffened like a soldier caught slouching in boot camp. He saluted, not a wave, not a nod, a full Navy salute. "Commander Reeves, ma'am. Didn't know you were in the city." Turner froze. "Ma'am? Salute?" Joyce took off her glasses then, slowly, not to intimidate, just to see, to remind. "At ease, officer," she said gently. "Just running errands." Turner stood silent, red creeping up his collar. Whatever warning he'd planned died in his throat. "This was a routine check, ma'am," he mumbled. "Standard protocol, just procedure." "There's nothing routine about disrespect," she said. Now folks were watching. Someone pulled out a phone. Another leaned in close, pretending to text while recording. Turner felt it. That shift when control slips away and the ground starts shaking, even if only under your feet. "You're free to go," he said finally, handing back her documents. But she didn't drive off. "Actually, officer, we're not done." He blinked. "Excuse me? I want you to say why you pulled me over the way you did. With that voice, that posture, that tone." Turner didn't speak. "You assumed I was just another black woman behind the wheel. You saw my skin before you saw my rank, before you saw my name. You thought this would be easy." Still nothing. "You thought the badge gave you the right to treat me like I didn't belong here, like you were doing the world a favor by reminding me." People started murmuring. The other officer stepped back, unsure if he should intervene or disappear. "I want you to understand something," she continued. "Just because someone isn't wearing their uniform doesn't mean they haven't earned it. And just because someone's calm doesn't mean they'll stay silent." She looked him straight in the eye one last time. "Someone's always watching, someone's always recording, someone's always remembering." Then she slid her sunglasses back on, started the engine, and drove away like nothing happened, like she hadn't just broken apart the illusion with a few steady sentences. And Officer Turner? He stood there in the middle of Wilshire, sun beating down, hands on his hips, mouth half open. The weight of what had just happened pressed on him like a boulder in his chest. He had two options: admit he'd made a mistake, or pretend it was all just protocol. Guess which one he picked? What happened next changed everything. And trust me, you don't want to miss how it all unfolded. The morning didn't start with coffee, it started with a phone call. Officer Michael Turner sat at his kitchen table, chewing on a burnt slice of toast slathered with peanut butter, watching traffic reports mumble across the TV. I-10 was jammed, like always. His nerves were calm. No caffeine, no sirens, just peace and peanut butter. Until his phone lit up. "Captain Graves." And just like that, the air got heavier. When a captain calls you at 7:12 a.m., it's not about weekend shifts or donut runs. It's a summons. It's a storm warning. "Turner," the voice barked. Firm, clipped, carved straight out of granite. "Be at HQ in 20 minutes. Full dress, medals, the works." Not an invitation, not a suggestion, a directive. He entered through the back door of the precinct, stiff spine, neutral face. Walked like the floor was watching him. No greetings, no eye contact. Colleagues glanced and quickly looked away, like furniture pretending not to hear yelling from the next room. Even the vending machine hummed quieter than usual. The conference room was cold, clinical, and not just from the AC. 4 people sat at the head of the table, internal affairs. And right there in the middle sat someone Turner hadn't expected. An older black man with a stare that could stop traffic and a silence so loud it made your ears ring. Turner sat down. To his right, the city prosecutor. Never a good sign. On the table, a copy of the police report, a news clipping, and a tablet cued to a pause video frame. He knew that freeze frame, the moment his career started rolling downhill like a rusted-out shopping cart. "Officer Turner," the prosecutor began, voice sharp as a tack, "we're here to review your conduct during a traffic stop involving a citizen named Joyce Reeves." "Who?" added a sharply dressed woman with a precise haircut and a voice that didn't do small talk. "Is not just a citizen. She is a retired Navy commander, decorated for active combat. And," she flipped a page with emphasis, "a current candidate for the Los Angeles City Council." Turner tried to keep his face straight. Protocol, professionalism, right? But the sweat along his collar said otherwise. "I didn't know who she was," he offered flatly. "It was a standard stop." The old man finally leaned forward, his voice gravel and soul, slow as Mississippi blues. "Standard?" he repeated. "You mean, she's black, the car's clean, no real violation, but hey, let's see what shakes loose?" The room paused. Turner blinked. I I was doing my job. I wasn't disrespectful. It was a conversation." "Conversation?" The prosecutor pushed the tablet toward him and hit play. The video rolled. There it was. Him, leaning, smirking, asking if her Navy title came from the internet. That mocking tone that spilled out before his brain caught up. The prosecutor didn't need to say much. You weren't seeing a woman. You were seeing a type, and you figured she'd be easy to handle. That's not conversation, officer. That's condescension in uniform. Silence settled in like fog, heavy, suffocating. Across town, Commander Joyce Reeves was in a whole different atmosphere. CNN's downtown studio, spotlights, microphones. One camera, 4 million eyes. Her suit was midnight navy. Her words were precise, controlled. Like someone who'd been through real storms and wasn't rattled by drizzle. I wasn't stopped because of a violation, she said, looking straight into the lens. I was stopped because someone saw my skin and thought danger before dignity. 8 minutes on air. That's all it took. Her quote, "Even in uniform, I remain a target," tore through social media like wildfire. TikTok lit up. Facebook boomed. Veterans reposted it. Mothers nodded along. Students turned it into rally cries. Turner watched it from his couch that night. Alone. TV on mute. But the message still screamed in his head. 2 days later, she showed up at police headquarters. And she didn't come alone. Veterans, journalists, advocates, and 2 very well-dressed attorneys. The lobby went quiet, like church just before the preacher drops truth. Officers who didn't even know the full story felt it in their bones. This wasn't business as usual. She walked through the doors like it was her ship now. Inside the hearing room, Turner sat rigid, tried not to look at her. But she didn't flinch. "Officer Turner," she began, voice even, commanding, "you thought I was just a woman, just black, just driving. But I am a Navy commander. I am a mother, a veteran, a citizen. And I remember." Turner tried to speak. Nothing came out but air. Dry, hollow. The committee had heard enough. "Our findings," on the lead investigator said, "indicate a clear breach of conduct, misuse of authority, improper tone. We're offering resignation with dignity. Refusal will result in termination for discriminatory behavior and breach of public trust. No long speeches, no second chances." He nodded. There was no fight left in him. They didn't let him return to his desk. No locker room goodbyes, just a quiet escort to collect his badge and walk out with an empty box and a full plate of regrets. Joyce walked out to the steps of the police building, cameras clicking, microphones raised. She didn't hold back. "This isn't the end," she said. "This is the beginning. Because this isn't about one officer. It's about a system that raised him, trained him, and gave him power with no accountability. We will speak. We will fight. We will not be silent." The crowd roared. Veterans stood, teens recorded, elders wiped tears. And somewhere in the background, barely visible, was a man who'd thought flipping on his siren that day was just another routine 10 minutes. He didn't know he wasn't stopping a car. He was stopping silence. This is the moment it all shifts. You've waited. Now see what happens when power meets purpose. The reckoning isn't over yet. 2 days after Joyce Reeves walked into the LAPD precinct like it was her ship to command, the city couldn't stop talking. Not the whispers kind of talking. No. This was the kind of buzz that wraps around headlines. Headlines that slap you across the face on newsstands. There she was, front and center on Los Angeles Weekly. Underneath her photo, bold and sharp, the commander who brought fire and patience. That cover sat in barber shops and grocery aisles, posted on community bulletin boards and tacked onto fridges. It wasn't just news, it was message received. Inside a modest radio studio in South LA, Joyce sat across from a wide-eyed host who knew this moment mattered. The studio was quiet, the kind of quiet where even the AC sounded like it was listening. Phone lines lit up before she even spoke a word. Veterans, teachers, nurses, truckers, regular folks with real stories. Caller after caller said the same thing. "Thank you." Joyce leaned toward the mic, her voice even but piercing. This isn't about revenge, she said. I'm not fighting for payback. I'm fighting so none of us feel like we have to stay quiet when the system steps on our necks and then calls us too loud for crying out. It wasn't a soundbite, it was gospel. Over at the precinct, things had gone cold, and not the good kind. Michael Turner sat in a worn-down corner booth at a strip mall cafe, a paper he didn't read in front of him, and a coffee cup that lost its warmth faster than he lost his job. No badge, no uniform, no calls. Once people nodded when they saw him. Now they stared, not with pride, with the kind of recognition that stings. Oh, that's the guy. He used to tap his pen in rhythm with his own authority. Now he just sat there, hands still, watching his reflection in the diner window. He thought stepping down would close the chapter, that maybe if he left quietly, it would all fade. But the system doesn't like being called out, not by someone like her, and definitely not when people start listening. City Hall a week later, the council chambers, usually filled with debates about potholes and playground funding, looked like the center of the universe. Reporters, lawyers, activists, and Joyce Reeves standing at the front in a black suit that could slice through doubt, a silver navy pin on her lapel, straight and steady. We're not here to talk about one incident, she began. We're here to dissect what happens when silence is no longer an option. She clicked the first slide. Data. Cold, sharp numbers. Over the last decade, 430 complaints were filed against LAPD officers for bias against black drivers in this county. Guess how many led to suspensions or removals? She paused. 0. Until now. The room didn't breathe. Someone cleared their throat. Pens scratched across legal pads. A few phones rose silently into the air, live streaming. This isn't one woman's fight, she said, because if they can pull you over just for being you, next time they won't ask. They'll just act. Applause broke out. KCAL News ran the speech that night. A voice of Joyce and Hunch Commander on deck trended across social media. Michael Turner watched it from his couch, same one he hadn't moved from in days. The world had moved on, just not with him. The only messages he got were from anonymous accounts telling him he brought shame, made them look weak, and one that simply said, "You crossed a line we built for you." What line was that exactly? The line between power and decency, between entitlement and consequence? Turner didn't have answers, just silence. A week later, Joyce got a letter. White envelope, no return address. Inside, a Department of Defense header, formal, clean, sharp, invitation to testify before the U.S. Senate Committee on Homeland Security. She read it twice, folded it back, stepped outside her home in Inglewood, and stood in the sunlight. Kids yelled down the street. A basketball bounced on the pavement. The world kept moving. She was ready. That evening, she sat under studio lights, this time on national television, CNN, primetime. Her silhouette framed by red, white, and blue. Across from her sat a host who tried to stay composed, but you could see the questions bubbling under the surface. Commander Reeves, did you ever think one traffic stop would turn into all of this? Joyce gave the kind of smile that didn't come easy. A quiet one built from scars and knowing. Big change never starts big. It starts small. A smirk, a tone, a hand on a holster that lingers too long. Someone spits at your feet and calls it rain. But that day, she paused. That was the last drop in a full bucket. The interview spread like gospel on a Sunday. Excerpts played on radio, community centers hosted screenings, classrooms debated her words. She wasn't a headline anymore. She was history in motion. She started speaking in schools, churches, community halls, not yelling, not preaching, just truth, dressed in discipline. They taught me how to hold the line. Now I teach others where the line should be drawn, between fear and truth, between silence and a voice, between what we've endured and what we refuse to accept. Folks listened, not because of rank, but because she sounded like someone who had nothing to sell and everything to give. And Turner, He worked night shifts as a mall guard in Pasadena. Name tag, flashlight, cheap uniform. Respect? That stayed behind with the badge. One night, a young delivery driver stopped him mid-round. "Hey," the kid said, squinting. "You're that cop, right? The one who got canned because of that Navy lady?" Turner stiffened. "Yeah," he muttered. The kid nodded. "My dad served in the Navy. Said it's about time someone stood up." Then he left, just like that. Turner stood still a while, didn't move, didn't breathe deep. For the first time in months, it hit him. This wasn't about her ruining his life. This was about him choosing the wrong side. A side that didn't have anyone left standing on it. And Joyce? She ran for city council, and she won. By a landslide. Folks who hadn't voted in years showed up with buttons and signs. Churches opened early. Grandmothers handed out water and pep talks. On her first day in office, she stood tall in the chamber, hand over her heart. "I took an oath to defend this country," she said. "Now I take an oath to defend my community. Let's see someone try and tell me I don't belong at the wheel." Her voice hit the room like a command on a Navy deck. Strong, sharp, unshakable. If you made it this far, you already know. This story wasn't about one officer, one car, or one city. It was about everyone who ever looked power in the eye and said, "Not today." That story, that power, it's yours too.